Hello,
And
everyone. How are you doing? Hi.
Yeah,
Pleasure
welcome,
being
Greg.
here.
Greg,
Thank you. It's nice you've asked me to be on.
well, Greg, we want to get into your story here, but first, let's give a little background from the standpoint of, you survived the heart attack in 2017, but when they found the leukemia, and for everyone out there, this is when you have an excess of your white blood cells, they're immature white blood cells that proliferate through the body, and your organs are extremely stressed. Your immunity is compromised, and this is in very, very different stages. The spleen is swollen, the liver gets swollen, the lymph nodes become larger, and so it's a real challenge to the whole body. So you really started struggling. Can you tell us a little bit about just your symptoms back then? Having survived the heart attack, now knowing that you're dealing with the chronic leukemia, what were you feeling? How was your day?
I was becoming more and more fatigued, and I chalked it up to aging. I mean, I'm 74, and I was 68 or 9, whatever it was then, 17. I try to forget the years, but the fatigue factor, because of my construction work and roofing and rebuilding chimneys and everything else, I just could not maintain my work, and I just it was devastating. I just couldn't. I would try to work and nearly pass out, or be so fatigued that I could not, get back up the ladder to the roof anymore, and thought I was having heat strokes or heat prostration, but here it was just fatigue, and no amount of sleep seemed to help it. It became chronic, and I didn't ever want to give up, but I told a friend of mine about it a couple years after that, actually, because I didn't really complain about my health symptoms much to anybody. We sort of tend to keep everything to ourselves, and I just became not complacent about it, but sort of accepted the fatigue factor, until a friend of mine said, "Hey, I have a friend," and it happened to be Dr. Tina, and she sent me, my friend sent me my first bottles of Tello유스, and she said, please try this. And within about a week, my fatigue started to decline. I mean, I began to notice, it wasn't instant recovery or anything, but I began to notice that I was a little bit stronger. My night sweats had quit, because with CLL, with this type of leukemia, you have slight fevers and then night sweats that you just wake up and basically have to change the sheets and your clothing. You get soaked, and that began to decline. And I'd say that was in about the second or third week. My shivers, I'd get chills. It was like having malaria. You'd be like chilled and fevers and then night sweats. Even if I took a nap, I'd end up soaking wet. I never knew why, and here it was the leukemia effects, the characteristic of it.
Yeah,
So
let me jump in here. I'm sorry there, Greg, but
Sorry.
also this was, you're starting to feel better and you're getting your immune system back, because again, with leukemia, that's one of the main factors that helps with the diagnosis is your compromised immunity. And what I want to share now is that any type of abnormal condition, like a cancerous condition in the body, is very complex. So there's more going on. And in your case, we can show, Dr. Tina, you want to bring up that first slide? You had inflammation in your body, and here's your blood tests that were shown in 3/22. So this is March of 2022. they measured your C-reactive protein, and that's a marker for inflammation. So there was more going on in your body than it could handle from the standpoint of your immune system. And this is when you discovered you had severe prostatitis. And from what I understand, then that's when you went in for a prostatectomy, correct?
I had my prostate taken out actually February 24th, but with a lot of complications. I nearly bled to death for over almost 2 months after they took my prostate out. I mean, they had to give me 12 units of blood to bring me back, basically. And that's more blood than I think your body probably has in it. So I don't know if any of my blood is mine anymore. But
right.
I mean, it was. But the prostatectomy was actually February 24th.
February. Okay. So then we've got the markers here for March, and they're showing that what they put you on heavy rounds of antibiotics.
Well, where it drops there in April, that's when they had me just on a massive amount of IV antibiotics because they finally figured out I had an infection, a blood infection. You know, I mean, they didn't call it sepsis, but I think it was very close to being septic. But so they started fleshing that out, and then of course that went up again. Pretty drastically,
right? And that's the point.
I was still bleeding with a lot of inflammation problems. They didn't cure that bleeding until about after the 17th of April. They put me into radiology, where they put the stents in 2 bleeding arteries that they had evidently missed when they took the prostate out. And it made me, and I was going through a series of weakness then that I couldn't get up and walk. I mean, I tried, and I could make it from like the bed to a chair, and that was about it.
So again, there's this incredible challenges with, the number one, the suppressed immunity because of the leukemia, and then you had the prostatectomy, and then because of the bleeding, the antibiotics worked on dealing with the infection, but then also because there was other complications from the bleeding, the inflammatory process, the stages went back up again. So
exactly.
This is why you're seeing the high and then low, and then it jumps up again. And this is when they went in and did the surgery to essentially just cauterize those vessels. So,
into radiology, where they put the little corkscrew type of stents up in your arteries to block them off. And, and so far they're holding. So although they tell me don't lift anything heavy, don't do anything strenuous, and I'm like, I pushed the envelope a little bit, but. So far, so good. I came home out of the hospital on the 20th of April. I talked them into sending me home with IV therapy that I applied myself. And I had a midline port in my arm put in. And I mixed my own antibiotics and put them into the IV port, and did that for another 10 days because I had to get out of the hospital. I was starting to get just when they said it's going to take another 10 days laying in this bed, I said, you got to let me out of here. So I came home and treated myself with the remainder of the antibiotic regime, and it seemed to clear it up. Then I got another complication from the prostatectomy and the bleeding, and that was another infection that they treated me for again. And put me in the hospital. I mean, that's when I came back out and finished that treatment.
And wasn't there like a second heart attack from the?
I had a heart attack the day after they took the prostate out, and I was bleeding so badly. They were flushing me with these huge, almost 4-liter bags of saline solution, and which wasn't stopping the bleeding. It was just making sure I didn't get clots in my bladder. And these poor nurses were just loading these bags up like every half hour. I would go through them. But the day after the prostatectomy, they came in and said, "Let's try to get you up and walk." And I went, "What?" I had robotic surgery with, trocars all in me and to remove my prostate. During the walk, I got about 40 or 50 feet down the hallway, and I slumped over against the wall and said, "I don't feel so good." And they said, "Can you make it back to the room?" And I came back to the room, and they did some blood and said, "You're having a heart attack." And I said, "Oh, that's what that was. Thanks." And
Oh my goodness.
then they
Oh, by
plugged
the
a big
way.
bag. They
Right.
plugged a big bag of heparin in me because of the heart attack. At the same time, I'm bleeding.
Oh my goodness.
Heparin's a blood thinner. So,
Right.
and I asked urology about it, and they said, "Well, cardiology has the rule now. Since the heart attack, we've handed you off to cardiology." I said, "I'm bleeding to death." And they said, "Well, yeah, we'll keep flushing you and keep track." But it was maddening. I mean, it was just I was like laying there going, if I can get up and get out of here, I'm leaving. I couldn't though. I mean, so I'm looking at. I mean, I knew enough about medicine that if you're trying to clot bleeders, you're not, and you're giving me heparin. That's an anti-clotting agent. So it was just I just practically bled to death.
Exactly. And your immune system's fighting the inflammation, and you have a compromised immune system because of the leukemia. So
Right.
I just want to give everyone an idea that this was no simple procedure for you. They removed the prostate was the size of it's 3/4 of a pound. So
it was
that's
330 grams. They told me 330 plus. They really couldn't get a measurement on it without some other systems. I mean, I don't want to go into how they measured that. It's like,
but think about that, everyone out there. This is like getting 3/4 pound hamburgers, taken out of that part of the body, and it's just incredible size of the tumor. So
and they had assured me it was cancerous, that I had a cancerous prostate, and the biopsy they did showed nothing. And they said, "Well, often we miss things with the 10-needle biopsy." And I was like, I sure didn't feel like it. And of course, I was bleeding more from the damage done with the biopsy. And then when they finally removed the prostate and sent it off, the amount they removed out of there, no cancer at all, nothing, zero. So they had me like really concerned. I had quite advanced prostate cancer, but without any real justification, lab work for it to that date. And I flat out asked the doctors who lost the bet, that I had prostate cancer. So I had no cancer, and
Wow.
and
Dr. Tina, can we show the next slide, because it kind of gives a little bit of the trials and tribulations of what he went through from just after that surgery. You see low levels of hematocrit and hemoglobin because of just the massive loss of blood. The red blood cell count is low. White blood cell count is high because of the leukemia and the infections. And what's dramatic is that you may have had that large size tumor of the prostate, but your immune system was coming back from the Tello유스 that you were taking. And
it was doing the fighting for me. It was doing the repair.
Yeah.
And I was trying to keep the repair. I was taking up to 20 capsules a day. And I think that Dr. Tina's numbers wwere given to my friend, and she relayed those to me. And I'm like, 20 a day? And she's like, "Don't worry, I'll send you the bottles." And without my friend, I don't think I would have. And she calls me about every morning to make sure I've taken my Tello유스.
Not a girl.
She does. In fact, she just texted me as we were on, like, "Did you get on yet? Your meetings. This is a reminder of your meetings." So I'm like, okay. So I can't thank her enough.
Yeah, I want to also just mention, I mean, look at how low the red blood cell count is, and it's now at normal. This is in July, and July 19th for the last, but look at the white blood cell count. It's still high, but look at the huge change of it coming back. And this is in the thousands. So this is way off the charts here, as far as numbers. And so anyway, Dr. Chris, do you want to go into anything else? I mean, the thing that I'd really like to mention is, first of all, the stressors. Stress accelerates aging more than anything. And the stressors that Greg has been through up until his first heart attack were enormous. A lot of physical stress that he had gone through. Now, because he was taking really good nutrition, and we're not going to go into that, it would have been like the building blocks that Tello유스 uses. So because he was doing that, he wasn't really paying that much attention. He was still pushing through and doing his physical activity. But then, when something so serious happens, like a heart attack, and you end up in the hospital, and then all of these other things just kind of unfold in front of you, there were major stresses happening long before he ended up in the hospital. Okay.
Mhm.
No, I had a lot of stress in my life. I mean, I didn't really think that it was much more stress than other people had for some reason, but after I've always been pushed myself to be self-employed, and I just had a lot of took care of my dad for 6 years at home after his stroke, and I went through sleep deprivation for 6 years. Of 2 hours. 2 hours of sleep was like the max I got for 6 years. I mean, in one night, and
Wow.
that took a toll. And then my not being able to work, because I was working on a design, building a lighthouse I had designed, and we were building it on the base of an old silo. So I was working 50 feet up without a rope, and I would get fatigued and dizzy, and I mean, that no rope thing was my choice. It was probably stupid, but I just noticed I could not maintain my levels of production, and I had to bow out of that now and then. And then just the mental stress of aging. I didn't realize, honestly, I was one of those guys that never thought I'd live to be 70. I mean, I figured a motorcycle wreck or a coal truck or something would get me. And I mean, it's just the kind of thing you think when you're young. Oh, I'll never get as old as you, when you talk to an older guy or something. And here I am. But it's just an emotional stress, and then the physical stress on top of it was just, and that's supposedly what I've read causes your prostate to possibly enlarge like that, or stress factors of hormones and stuff. And I don't really know. The next couple of months from now, they might come out with another reason why your prostate enlarges. I don't know. But I had that. I think I'd had a heart attack the year before while riding a motorcycle in 2016, because I wrecked without any reason at all. I jerked my front brake, and the motorcycle I was riding high-sided on me. That means the front end flipped and flipped sideways, and it put me down on the highway so hard that it broke my helmet and shattered all the. I broke a bunch of ribs and shattered my ballistic jacket I was wearing. The armor in it was all turned to powder from hitting so hard. But I was just like a sack of potatoes laying on the road. And the only thing I can come up with is I must have had a heart attack, because there was no reason for me to wreck. It was just a single vehicle, me, wreck. I didn't hit anybody or hit anything. I just flipped the bike. And I never figured that out until later, that it was probably a heart attack, because I felt this twinge, and made me grip my front brake real fast. And
Oh,
but
wow,
anyway,
Well,
interesting.
it
Yeah.
speaks to,
anyway, the following year I had a heart attack at 4 o'clock in the morning after being out on my motorcycle that night and got caught in the rain of a tornado. And I made it home, and 4 o'clock in the morning I just woke up totally alert, with an elephant on my chest, and I stood up and it knocked me down, and I got up again and it knocked me down again, and I started slapping myself real hard to bring my adrenaline up to be able to get to my landline phone then, and called 911. I was living alone, and they finally showed and started pumping nitroglycerin in me in the ambulance, and I think 4 tablets of it's what they authorized over the phone to get me to the hospital in time. And that was the 2017 heart attack. That was the first I'd been in the hospital for that. I had flushes, I'd call them, before, where I just couldn't figure it out. I would just, they'd call me to lunch and I'd be laying up on a scaffold like 40 feet off the ground. I said, I'll be down in a little bit. But I was so out of it, I couldn't get down the ladders to have lunch. And then it seemed to pass. But I think my heart was telling me things then. And I had one artery that was 90+% blocked, with only 5 to 10% blockage in other vessels. And the doctor couldn't figure that out. He's like, usually you have a lot more blockages than that. But I had a vessel called my widowmaker's, the one that was blocked, and which you usually don't come back
Don't
from.
usually survive.
right.
Yeah, you usually don't survive it, and I survived it. And
Wow, Greg,
Well,
phenomenal story.
yeah.
Dr. Chris, do you want to add anything before we go to some of the next slides as well? Or?
No, I just think it's important to show that through so many traumas, near-death experiences, that we're seeing now your blood work going in the right direction. The white blood cell count is coming down, and the red blood cells are being restored. So it's just
it has dumbfounded the hematologists that have come into my room. I mean, when I was out there in the 17th of July, I had a hematologist come in and go, your blood counts are nearing the high end of normal. You're 14,000 on your white count. And 21 days before that, I was 16,000 something from another blood test I'd had done for urology. I mean, I've been tested out I call them vampires because they're always bringing blood out of me. And but every time I turn around, do you mind coming in for another blood test? Yes, I'm starting to mind, but okay. Mm-hmm. And but he's like, what do you take it on? We have this list of stuff, and what's this? Basically, what's the Tello유스? What's chaga? And what's And so I try to. I mean, it's near impossible to try to re-educate a AMA doctor, to be honest. And if they believe you at all, they're not allowed to tell their associates or tell another patient about it. I know that. But they were just amazed. My oncologist was she's getting ready to give me 1-year appointments to be checked up for the leukemia, because I'm still at 0. I have no swollen lymph glands. My color's good. When they were giving me whole blood, I developed the jaundice in my right arm where they were giving me the blood. My arm just turned. I woke up one morning, my arm was like, carrot yellow, and I was like, "What's going on here?" And they were, "Oh, that's odd." And I'm like, "Yeah, you better tell me what's going on here. Did you give me, hepatitis or something, or what?" And they said, "Well, sometimes that just happens when you're given whole blood." And I'm like, "Yeah." But after about 3 days, that went away, faded away out of my arm. And my wife, my ex, was actually bringing me in. I don't think I told you this before. Was bringing in Tello유스 into the hospital for me to take, and I had to basically hide that from the hospital. You weren't supposed to be taking other medicines. So
Well,
I mean, I was actually
yeah.
I was in 3 different ICU units, and she brought that in. I asked her to please bring my medicine in, and she did. But I'd
Wow.
only get to take it while she was there and get it out of her purse and give it to me. We're looking for cameras, you know. She's looking out in the hallway, and that's a good time, because I don't know. I don't think they could have stopped me from doing that, but I can get pretty stubborn sometimes, but sometimes not in a good way. I mean, self-damaging, stubborn type of thing is.
Wow.
But anyway, it's so I. Especially after the jaundice thing is when I asked her to bring that in. And of course, she's giving me a little argument about it. And I said, look, you know, really, honestly, I told her what it was. She brought the bottle in her purse, and I hid it. I had her put some in my pocket of my pants that were over in the closet. And I would get that out of there when I was able to get up, and the nurses would come in and go, what are you doing up? And I'm like, well, you got to get out of the bed sometime, You can't. I couldn't stand the bed. But anyway, that was what led to all that. And then when the fatigue started going away, and I noticed a rebound of energy, I looked at your ingredients, and of course I Googled them up, and knowing what I know about herbals, I attributed it to the rhodiola more than anything, and then realized it was the
egg extract, yeah.
Yeah, your egg extract, your
Yeah.
what is it? It's not a protein, is it? It's a trying to think
It's
of the
signal
concept.
molecules. Yeah, they're broad spectrum
Right,
signal
right.
molecules. Yep.
Yeah, the signal. Something really started making me feel like worth getting up in the morning. I mean, a good day to me, you guys were talking about, hey, it's a nice day, is I wake up and go, it's a good day because I woke up. And so that's because you just, I mean, it sounds sort of negative, but it's not. I like to get up before daybreak and watch it turn daylight. And whether it's cloudy out or raining or storming or sunny, I'm grateful for the day that I'm given again. And
Yes,
get up
absolutely.
and take my supplements and take my Telloyuth. And I sound like a Telloyuth advertisement, but I'm telling you, there's something happened there. There's something happened there that has not happened from all the other supplements that I have taken. Thinking what I was taking before was holding things off, but I have not realized the improvement since I've been taking this.
Wow, fantastic.
Well, Greg,
Let's
do
talk
we
a
really
little
wanna-
bit why, Dr. Chris. Do you want to talk about the
it's the recovery. It's the recovery on the cellular level, and in Greg's case, you're seeing the recovery of the cardiovascular system, which shows how the blood changed. And this is a great picture to show that those strokes, those heart attacks that you had, were caused by the blockages throughout your cardiovascular system, especially in the heart, that causes the heart attack. And then taking your Telloyuth, and these are pictures of other individuals. This is Bobby's slide that shows how after just 45 minutes taking the Telloyuth, the bloodstream opens up and the cells regain their vitality. And you have a compromised immune system. So here you see that one white blood cell, the neutrophil in there, you had massive amounts of these cells. They're immature white blood cells that just are growing out of control, that are part of the symptom of your leukemia. And so all of that is reversing. We're removing the abnormal white blood cells. We're building back the good red blood cells, and just a total reversal of your cardiovascular system and your immune system. So you're going to have many good days ahead, and they're going to continue to improve. And we're so excited you were able to just share your story and the ability to just have such a remarkable recovery after so many challenges. Dr. Tina, do you want to take it from there?
Yes, yes, if you don't mind, I'd like to just add a few things. We talk about these 3 buildings. We have some other new people that are on the line, and we talked about stress and the ability to handle stress. First of all, Greg, you have a lot of resiliency. That is very proven by, what you've talked about with life, throughout your life. And, when you're young, we have this optimal cell-to-cell communication. We handle stress better. Like you said, we don't think we're ever going to get old, like that old person that we're looking at. You get the deep sleep, you have lots of energy, mental clarity, and life is good. The lights are on, the plumbing's working, and then we move through time and we end up with this accelerated aging. And think of this like in 2016 when you flipped your bike, lots of things going on in the body, things are broken down. And, we end up in this stress mode, stuck in what we call the stress defense mode. When we're stuck in this mode, this is when we start to feel those imbalances. They're ahead of us. The low energy is ahead of us. Those pains and those aches are all ahead of us. And this means we're stuck in that stress defense mode. We experience the imbalances on a daily basis. Now, this is the accelerated aging phase. We know that we can reverse this. How do we do it? When you reintroduce Telloyuth, it's like having these construction workers go to work that are in the body. Those are your stem cells that are in your body. What we do is we activate the stem cells with the signal molecules that are very specific that we only get from Norway. Highly concentrated, fertilized, incubated hen eggs, and we extract those signal molecules around the 11th day, and those are put into our Telloyuth. Those are the signal molecules that we had when we were young, when we had to build our body from a baby to the age of 21, but they decline after the age of 21. They rapidly decline, and so do our stem cells because we don't need that many construction workers to build our body. So what we do is those construction workers that are in the body, we call them back to work with the signal molecules from Telloyuth. Not only that, but all of the good nutrition that you are taking in conjunction with your Telloyuth, like think of it as the building blocks. They're the sheetrock, they're the electrical, they're the plumbing. Those are all the high quality materials that Telloyuth has to rebuild at such a high quality, faster pace. So when the body gets these signal molecules infused back into the system, they know what to do with them because it's a natural part of having these signals in our body. We just like to infuse more. And that's why when Diana was telling you to take 20, what we're doing is we're saying, hey, get those construction workers working fast and furious, because we have to get you out of the stress defense mode to get you into the rejuvenation mode. And this is when we're starting to rebuild your energy reserves, starting to help you get more resiliency again, to be able to handle stressors, not so that you can go out and jump on your bike and go crazy again, but to rebuild your body, okay? And so everybody experiences that rebuilding phase a little bit differently. You had devastating fatigue. So having that devastating fatigue finally turn around, a lot of people will end up in a real deep sleep mode and no energy while the body is rebuilding, because it's hard to clean out the body. It's hard to rebuild the body and to be on go. So sometimes you'll end up in these cycles where you're going to get really tired, and just know Telloyuth needs you to rest so it can build multidimensionally on many different levels. Okay. Dr. Chris, do you have anything to add before we open it up for any comments or questions?
No, let's open it up and see if we can share some more stories, or see if there's any questions for Greg from our.
Yes, and Greg, thank you so much for coming on. We're going to unmute people. They're going to come in and they might have some questions for you.
Okay, I appreciate it. I was going to say, since I've been out of the hospital about 90 days now, And I'm walking behind a mower mowing grass, and I'm been on the roof a couple times to fix a couple roof leaks since then. And yes, I got tired, but before that, I was, they said you'll not be doing that kind of work. And I have the energy to do that in the mornings. I deplete myself, but then I seem to recover pretty fast.
That's wonderful.
I told my doctor I was cutting grass, and she looked at me and was like, "You're what?" I said, "Well, I've been cutting grass." She thought I'm in a riding mower. I said, "No, a walk behind mower. I have about 1.5 acres here or it'd be a jungle otherwise." But anyway, I appreciate the time to share the story and the belief in this product that something has definitely changed for me. But I have better energy now when I get up, and I'm only taking about 8 right now. I vary around. Sometimes I forget, and so I tell Diana I forgot. So now she's gotten into the habit of calling me every morning on her way to work, telling me to take your daily. I'm like, "Yes, dear, I'm taking them now." She's like,
We're gonna call her our Telloyuth angel.
"Oh no,
Right.
she's been incredible. She's been
Yes.
incredible." Yeah.
Yes.